Today, I am joined by Eric, better known as Those Back Pages on Twitter. He is making a return appearance to the podcast this week because we're going to talk about a key card that he was able to acquire at this year's National. And we had talked at the show, and I had a chance to see this card in person, but we said, let's give it a couple months and then bring Eric onto the show to maybe talk a little bit about this story. So Eric, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you kindly for having me back. I'm certainly excited, obviously, to talk about this topic. And when you had mentioned it a couple months back when we were talking at the show, I said, man, you know what? That's a good idea. When we both have some free time, let's hit record and get it done. So here we are.
Yeah, it's a great story. And as we were talking at the show, the thought process that you were sharing at that time about what went into this, I think it was definitely worth sharing with the broader audience. And so let's not hold it back anymore. Let's talk about this. And so at the 2023 National, you acquired what is a grail for you. So Eric, why don't you tell us all, what that is and what you were able to get at the National.
Sure. First, I want to quickly say that this past week we had a friend of the hobby, a big member of the hobby, pass away. Ben at Cardboard Icons. I don't know if anyone listening had known him, but he's part of this, kind of weave into the story a little bit because it's important. So I just wanted to give him a proper RIP. That he was a friend of mine, a hobby friend of mine. So you can never have enough hobby friends. So with that said, I think one of the more important things about this story is, like I just mentioned, having hobby friends. You can never have enough hobby friends. And obviously, we live in a world where everything is online, and I get that. But I think it's also important to know that you can make friends and have them offline as well. It starts online. You converse back and forth, have good conversation, and then you meet up at places like the National, where that's kind of a very, very brief backstory is that I've been going to the National. I've been fortunate enough to go every year since since 2010 that they've had it. They didn't have it in 2020, but every other year I've been able to attend. And over the course of those attendings, like you'd meet somebody on back then it was a message board. Before social media, it was a message board. And then on social media, you have interactions with people daily, weekly, monthly. There's different levels to everyone's friendship. There's no wrong way to go about a card friendship. But it also develops like, hey, how's your family doing and everything else? How's your, cards are great and all, but how's your life going and all those things? So I want to reiterate that this trade, I'll go into it more, but the rock bottom of it is this trade does not happen if I don't have friends in the hobby, off and online. Now, I think it's important that, a lot of people, I know a lot of people, I'm fortunate enough to know a lot of people in the hobby, acquaintances, friends, however you want to describe it. And I also know a lot of people that I don't know very well in the hobby. You see it on social media feeds all the time. Like, hey, you like this person, you might want to see this person, type of thing. So I see a lot of people say, hey, you know what? Going to the National, I got to buy a ticket. I got to get lodging. I got to buy food. I have to pay to get in. It's expensive. I could just stay home and buy it on eBay cheaper. All right. There's really no denying that. A plus B, it's no one's going to say, oh, you're wrong. But there's the intricacies. There's the stuff that's not online with friendships. There's stuff, in-person stuff that you just don't get from sitting at home being on eBay 24/7. It just doesn't work that way. And you're going to see part of that in this story. So, over the course, I'm Mike. I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but I'm rolling it all the way back
Yeah.
because I think it's important for what the end goal is here. So, I've always loved rookie cards. We can get into a debate about that topic another time, but I always want to pick up the best copy I can afford.
Mm-hmm.
The best looking copy, the best grade I can afford. I'm not a huge person that's, oh, buy a 2 now and then buy a 5 later. Buy the best one you can now. And as a collector, then it's time to get the next one. Hunt, 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 looking for the next, whatever it is you want to own. So I bought my first 2011 is when I really started to do, the heavy lifting as far as baseball.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I want to get, I had a situation arose where I had some funds. All right, I want to get a Hank Aaron rookie. And for years and years and years, I told people, hey, there's no wrong time to buy a Hank Aaron rookie.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up my first Hank Aaron rookie at the 2011 show. It was a PSA 3. All right. I picked up a couple of other rookies. I did well that show. Let's put it that way. 2012 I was like, maybe some football. Football seems to be a little underappreciated. And with football, I got a little weird. I was like, I want at least a 7, which is a little crazy when you think about it now. If you look at that, I picked up a Jim Brown rookie in a 7, and not Mantle, a Namath rookie in a 7, Bart Starr, Unitas, uh, actually PSC 8, Walter Payton, et cetera, et
Wow.
cetera. A Montana in a 9, a Rice in a 9. But you got to remember, this is 2012. The
Yep.
landscape was totally different. Totally different. We're not even like of the all those cards I just mentioned. Only the Namath was a comic card.
Okay.
All the other cards were under a grand. In
Yep.
PSA 7, I'm talking about. Unitas, Star, Jim Brown, PSA 9, Montana. I think it was like 450, something like that. It was a different time back then. Like I
Sure.
remember for the Jim Brown, it was 850 for a 7. 850. I
Yeah.
mean, so it was a
Yeah.
different time. This is important. It was a different time. So then, I kept going to the show and I kept, you know, making more friends, making more acquaintances, and having a great, like, the most important thing for me is the show is having a great time. Seeing everybody, yourself, everybody, having a chat, relaxed atmosphere. You're not worried about the internet. You're not worried about presentation or whatever. You're not worried about any of that stuff. Having a great time. 2004. Oh, so 2014. This is important. I'm at the show with a bunch of buddies, and there's a PSA 5 Aaron rookie, and the dealer, I think he had 1,200 on it, which was whatever it was. It was the going price. A friend of mine got him down to 1050, and a friend of mine couldn't get him down to an even grand. The other was like, nope, nope, I'll keep it 1050. So he walked away, and he told me about it. He was texting me. He showed me a picture of it. He was texting me. I said, just man, $50. You're just gonna, yeah, I can't do it. I'm. He's like, I'm at a grand. Okay, fine. I'm gonna go buy it then. I don't care. I don't care. I go over to the dealer. He sees me coming. He puts 2 and 2 together. Hey, let me see the Aaron. Take 1,000. No, 1050. Just like I told your friend. Okay, and I paid the man, and I took it home.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had gotten home, like a week after, as soon as I got home, he's like, "Oh, my friend's like, oh, I'll give you the 1050." No, no, it's like I don't feel bad because I told you multiple times, you don't buy this, I'm gonna buy this. This is a great deal. The card, it has a wrinkle on the back in the cartoon that I would have to show you for you to see it. So
Okay.
the technical grade is a 5. It looks like a 6 or a 7. But technical grade, because of the wrinkle, the rules are the rules. Anyway, so the show ends probably about 2 weeks after the show. There's another Aaron, a PSA 2 shows up at auction. I'm like, yeah, part of the upper left corner is missing. It's accurately graded. It looks nice. So I put in a low bid, like 450. It's like, not gonna win. Sure enough, it won. So I was like, all right, I'm happy about it. Like I said, no wrong time to buy an Aaron rookie. So time marches on. I keep adding some stuff here and there, some modern stuff, having fun collecting. And at these shows, I like to have, like, obviously everyone likes to have a list, a goal,
Mhm.
however they want to define it. Like, you like to pick up one or two nice cards that you're not going to treat yourself for the most part. So, those were my treat myself years. And then, the hobby funds come and go. You do what you do. You know, we have the pandemic. Everything gets crazy price wise. And I start seeing, and then probably earlier this year, late last year, I see a lot of people saying, I'm doing the trade up challenge. I'm doing this. I'm
Mm.
taking a bunch of these cards and turning it into a big, I'm taking 10 cards and turning it into one bigger card. It's like, okay, but I like my Jim Brown rookie. I like my rookies, but so I can see those guys' points. I'm fortunate enough to have that stuff, and eh. So flash forward to this year. All right, I see more of it. I'm like, man. So day before the national, day before I'm going to the national, my dad's gonna drive me to the airport the next morning, right? So he's like, why don't you just come a day early, we'll just hang out, have fun. And I know you don't sleep the night before, so you'll be, he lives in the Bronx. I'm out on Long Island. So it's like, yeah, just we'll hang out, have a good time. I'll take you to the airport in the morning, you go to the show. Sounds good to me. I'm not gonna, sleep somewhere for free and then a free taxi from him to the airport. No complaints. He's like, well, just bring your good cards and your good cards, and I'll keep them safe while you're away. I was like, you don't really have to, but okay, that sounds like a good idea. We can have a good time talking about, looking at these cards and having a good time. So he lives about an hour away drive. So I leave my house, I head over. On the way there, I'm thinking, first off, the old adage going to the show, if you don't want to trade or sell something, don't bring it. That's the
Mhm.
old adage. If you don't have it, you can't trade or sell it, because there are scenarios where you'll get a Godfather offer for something that you may own that you might not be able to replace, but somebody throws a stupid amount of money in your face. It's like, okay, I'll take it.
Mhm.
3, 4 times the value. Some people can get crazy. So I'm on the drive and I'm thinking, you know what? If I don't bring it, I don't, I can't sell it, trade it, whatever. But now I've got these cards with me, and let me talk to my dad. Let's go over this. Let's. He's not a card guy, but he's a common sense guy, right?
Mhm.
So he knows, but he doesn't know. So I get to his house. We do the usual stuff, and I was like, "All right, Dad, let's sit down. Let's sit down at the dinner table." I've got an idea. And I spread out all the slabs. We take a look at them and this and like, and I tell them, you know, these guys are doing this trade up challenge where they take a bunch of stuff and they combine it in to make a bigger. And I'm on my and I telling him this story as I was driving. I was like, why can't I trade for 52 Mantle?
Hmm.
I think I have. I think I have enough. I could try. Worst that happens is a no, and then I bring these home, right? So I'm telling him this story, and I'm like, because I am fortunate enough to have a Mantle rookie, the 51 Bowman, and I'm like, you know what? I could trade this Mantle rookie and a couple of these other, and then try to parlay that into a 52 Mantle Topps. And when I say 52 man, I mean Topps, not Bowman. Some people.
Yep.
So, and he sits and we're talking about assigned values on some of these cards, like Namath rookie and the Jim Brown rookie, stuff like that, the bigger cards, and some other little like a Jeter SPs and stuff like that. And he's like, and he sits and he thinks, and he's like, you know, and I asked him, which route would you go? Moving the 51 Bowman and a couple of others towards the 52 Mantle or a bunch of other stuff, the Brown, the Namath, etc. And he sits there and he thinks about it and he says, you know what, I would go with option B, the Brown, the Namath, etc., etc. Because, you know, the 51 Bowman is still an iconic card. It's a Mantle rookie. If you can get away with this other stuff that is more replaceable, but you know, in lower grade, it's still, it's not saying it's cheap to replace, but in lower grade, like like a Montana rookie in a 9 is great, but is there really that much difference between owning a 9 and a 7 or a 6? Really? You know, I have an old BGS BV. No, it's still BGS because 81. I have an old BGS Montana. You know, that's a 6 that has it looks like a stain on the card. It looks like a pit stain. Happens to be under his underarm. So technically, I still have a Montana rookie. So if I get rid of the 9, is it really that big a deal? Like and another card that was in the trade was a Emmett Smith score and a 10, PSA 10 score update. Is it really a big deal? That I think the sell value on that at the time was like $2,000, where you could buy a 9 for $150 or an 8 for $75. You know, we're
Yep.
talking about, you know, am I going to pass on this opportunity? Which, and let's be honest, this is all right. I'm getting ahead of myself, but anyway, so we decide, you know, all right, we're going to try with this group of cards, give it a shot. You never know. If it doesn't work, bring it home. No big deal. Okay. Get on the airplane, still thinking about it more. It's like, man, I'm starting to think now. I'm starting, because remember, I don't sleep the night before. Like I stayed up, I watched that Leonardo DiCaprio movie, Wolf of Wall Street. I watched that because I hadn't seen that in a long time. So I was getting excited, like, all right, the show, getting excited, dealing these deals. And I start thinking to myself, this could actually happen. This could actually happen. I'm starting to think positive, like this could actually happen. Mm-hmm. So I get to the show, I get to Chicago, and I meet up with a bunch of friends. You know, we're all hanging out. This is the Tuesday night.
Okay.
We're all hanging out at the hotel room. And I'm telling them this story, and I have the cards with me, and I'm showing them. Everyone's looking at the cards. They're like, this could happen. This could happen. It's, now, the thing is, you got to find the dance partner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone that's willing to trade and willing to trade well. You know, not give you 50% sale value type of thing.
Right.
So that all winds back to having a lot of friends in the hobby. So I think there's 6 of us in the hotel room just shooting the crap and talking cards and having fun. And one friend says, you know, I think I know the perfect guy for this trade. And he mentions this dealer. And I'm like, Man, I didn't even think of that. And this dealer had shown the weekend, the day before, a couple days before, he had posted on Instagram that he had 3 mantles that he was bringing to this
Oh,
sell. So it's like, all right, man, that. And my friend Andy is like, yeah, Andy, that's a great idea. And then another one of my friends, Dustin, he says, I know that. Dustin knows the dealer. He's friendly, he's not best friends, but he's friendly. He texts with him all the time. So my friend Dustin, goes ahead and texts the dealer, hey, my friend Eric is looking to trade for 52. We saw you got the 3 of them up on Instagram. Is that something, and he's got good stuff. He's not, he's not bringing you $1,030 cards, type of deal.
right.
He's like, yeah, we can definitely, this is Tuesday night. So he's like, yeah, come see me in the morning on Wednesday. Okay. Now remember, I don't know if I don't know Dustin, I don't get that text with the dealer. If I don't know Andy, he doesn't come up with the idea that actually this dealer is one of the bigger dealers at the show, and he sees these things. It's business
Right.
for the dealer. This dealer in particular, it's business. It's not personal. He has no attachment to any of these cards.
Right.
40 is bigger than 20. He's going to take 40, whatever it is. It's simple math for him. No attachment. So, all right, sure, cool. Find me in the morning. We'll meet up. We meet up Wednesday morning, 10:30ish, somewhere around there. Walk up to the booth. They're all just setting up. And hey, Dustin brings me over. Andy's there. We go over. Dustin's like, that's my friend Eric and Mano. Oh, yeah, you're looking to trade for a Mano. Yeah, hold on. Let me get one. So he goes to his storage, his vault, brings it out, brings out a PSA 4. It's like, oh, it's like, that's real nice, but I don't have the ammo for that.
Yeah.
Okay, he's like, yeah, no problem. He brings out, the second one he brings out is a SGC2. No, I'm
Okay.
sorry. A SGC1. And, wasn't bad looking. It was your stereotypical off center, top to bottom. And it had 2 push pins holes, one on the top,
Okay.
one on the bottom. Like, I guess when someone had it back in the day, they hung it up on their wall or cork board or wherever,
Right.
because
Yeah.
it had the push pin hole, and it had the circle little rub.
Yep.
On the sky blue, it had the rub, so you could tell it
Yep.
was what it was. It's like, oh, this is. He's like, I have another one. Hold on. And then he winds up bringing out this one, which
There it is.
you'll get a better picture to use for the audience, but you can see there in the top, it's centered.
Yep.
As soon as I saw that one, I'm like, oh, that's the one. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to, inside, I said, oh, that's the one. And I said, I think I like this one. Trying to, be calm about it, because, yeah, you're holding one of
Right.
these. You're going to be nervous. So,
Yeah.
okay. And then he's like, all right, well, let's talk. He's like, well, what do you got? And I take the box out, and he's flipping through it. He's like, okay, he's looking at it, he's nodding. He's like, okay, I think we could probably get something done. Because, if it's if it would have been 100 different PSA 10 ultra moderns, that's not going to get it done. But
Right.
he saw what I had in there, and I don't know if you want me to do you want to post the picture for the audience, or do you want me to quickly run off what was in there, or that's up to
Yeah. I will for sure post the picture
you.
with
Okay.
it. I think that would be good for everybody to see. But why don't you hit a few of the highlights, as
Okay.
well?
So basically what we did is we established a assigned value on the mantle. And then, I had my phone out, using it as a calculator, and he was using whatever one of the apps, that gives the assigned values. The I don't want to use the names of the companies. You know what I mean?
Sure.
The different
Yep.
companies you can look up, comps,
Yep.
everyone's favorite word. So
Yep.
he would take, all right, for example, like you said, like I had mentioned a couple of times, like the Namath rookie.
Yep.
I had a Namath rookie in a 7. So he looked it up. He's like, we went over the pros and the cons of what it looked like physically, because not all assigned grades are the same. And then he was looking at the past sales, and he would spit out a number. He's like, I value this at X, and I would say, okay, that's good. I
Yep.
agree with that. And then I would punch it in the calculator. All right, so we got that number. Then we would take the next card, for example, the Jim Brown rookie in a PSA 7. And he says, I value it at this, and I value it a little higher. This is probably the only one we disagreed on, honestly, of all of the ones. And we met in the middle.
Yep.
Like I think he was at, for example, he was at 6 and I was at 8. So we just went in the middle. It's like, okay, that's good. And I put in the calculator. Um, and that process, and I had mentioned it earlier in today's episode that, I had brought the PSA 2
Yep.
and the PSA 3 errands with me, knowing that this is good trade bait. I left the 5 at home on purpose for that very reason.
Sure.
And so we went over those and added those to the pile. A quick backstory: I had a T206 Cobb bat
Yep.
on, not the bat off, the bat on, in a 1.5. And I am fortunate enough that I own the green already, but there was the way things are. I knew I wasn't going to get the bat off or the red. So I decided, what was more likely? I'll get these two or just stick to the one copy, the green. So knowing that I would get a lot of mileage out of trading the bat on, put that in the pile, added that to the number. Like I mentioned, PSA 9, Montana, Rice, the PSA 8, Walter Payton, PSA 7s of Unitas and Bart Starr, Roger Staubach in the 7, the PSA 10, uh, Emmett Smith score, a PSA 8, Bowman regular Brady, PSA 8, um, a 98 Bowman's best Jeter refractor and a 10, two PSA 7 Jeters, SPs,
Yep.
Marino 9, Elway 9, uh, pink refractor rookie debut Otani in a 10, a red, white, and blue Luca 18 and a 10, Ginter Mini, Otani in a 10, a couple of other small cards. So we
Yep.
had gotten really close by the time we punched in all the numbers. And then, you know, a he's like, oh, I can do this, and then a small amount of cash. And I
Yep.
was like, man, he told me, and again, like I had mentioned, it was just business for
Yep.
him, just business. He was getting, I was like, all right, I'm not going to walk away over this small amount of cash.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we shook hands, the deal was done. I would say, honestly, the entire transaction itself, 20-25 minutes, and
That's a
it works, and it worked for him because he already had the other two manos, and he was
Yep.
getting all this other fodder, stuff for the show. And Wednesday early, before the show technically opened to the public, he would have all the stuff he would be able to put out. So it worked for him, it worked for me. um Essentially, I in this transaction, I have exited the vintage football market.
Yep.
I don't see myself owning a Namath again because they're crazy price. Same for the Jim Brown, and that's okay. You know, you're gonna make this time. You're gonna make this time to trade. You're not gonna. You can't. You're gonna have to give to get. It's
Yeah,
not.
that's amazing. When we talked, it must have been fairly shortly after that because it was early afternoon on Wednesday when you and I met up, and you showed me what you had done and got a chance to hold it and see it in person. And but one of those questions that I had was, how long do you have for it? Because I don't think we really got a chance to talk about the logistics of you connecting with that dealer to find the card, right? And so that was one of my questions, was how long did you have to look around to find somebody who was willing to negotiate in good faith and be open to a deal like that? And so you kind of hit on that one. One of the questions that I had going into it is, did you have any other cards in mind that you would have been, when you came to the show, that you would have been open to potentially trading for, or was it solely going after a 50 mantle?
You mean what I wound up giving up, or
Yeah, I
just
mean, you'd mentioned you kind of had this idea of coming to the show with some cards that you would be willing to trade towards that mantle. Were other cards, if you weren't able to find one or you weren't able to work out a deal, were there other things that were high on your list that you would have used those cards as trade material for, or was it going to be a mantle or nothing?
I think honestly it was going to be that man or nothing,
Okay.
because what I had just I exited pretty much the vintage football market. I
Yep.
mean, I pretty much gave up like 80% of any rookie anyone would want to own. So
Yep.
knowing that it would no, it's a good question though, because I can't think of no. I mean, nothing within reason. Like I wouldn't get you know. That is a really good question. No, I think
Yeah.
at this point, it was going to be that particular card, the mana.
Yeah. Very cool. Um, how did you decide? You've got a fantastic collection, and you share some of the things that you've picked up along the way. I mean, going back and seeing your content, you can see some of these significant cards that you've been able to acquire. And you talked a little bit about the story on some of them over the years of how you picked them up. But how did you decide what you were gonna be willing to bring? How did you narrow down, of all the cards in your collection, how did you narrow down the 23 cards that you were gonna bring and be willing to trade?
I had some others, not a ton of others with me, but again, a lot of that was talking it over with my dad. And another, I guess another thing to factor into it is that I was flying,
Yeah.
so you can't you can't really bring a ton of stuff. I'm not checking a bag with these cards in it that
Right.
stays with
Right.
you on the plane, right? So
Right.
you're limited to what you can bring. Now, if I had driven, then I could have probably brought another box or two of stuff,
Yep.
but it just wasn't possible.
Of the ones that you've got, there's a few that you mentioned, like the Aaron, right? Like, you've got an Aaron, so you didn't need three necessarily. You still got one of those. You mentioned you've got a lower grade Montana that's still a part of your collection. Of the ones that you traded, are there any of them that you think you're going to intentionally go after to reacquire, or have you already picked up or reacquired some of those?
That is a good
Anything
question.
like that?
I haven't gotten any of them back in a lesser grade. I happen to have the Jeter, the PSA 10 Bowman's Best refractor from '98. I actually have a 9. I
Okay.
picked up a 10 when there was a time the Jeters were, and I do this a lot. This player is just too cheap.
Yeah.
If I see a card that's a good card and it's just too cheap, okay. If especially if it's on auction, if I win, all right, I'm stuck with an extra Jeter refractor from the '90s. Oh boy, that's there are worse things, that type of thing. But I still have a SP8 PSA 8 Jeter that I left home. I guess the one card that I like I said, the Namath is done, the Jim Brown, the Bart Starr, the Unitas. I just don't see myself spending those funds again that would be required, even in a
Yep.
lesser grade. Um, Probably I'd like to get a Walter Payton because I actually did see him play. But again, I'm fine with a 5. At this
Yeah.
point, not going to see another Cobb, that's for sure. I guess the one card I'd like to the one the one card I'd like to get back is probably an Emmett score. I don't own
Sure.
one, but again, it's a scenario where okay, a PSA 8 is what, $50. You just go to eBay
Yep.
and hit the buy it now, and then you own one. It's not, and that's another thing. Like I don't think I mentioned this, but as far as the aspect of internet versus offline friends and stuff, but it also applies to trading. I'm not going to make this trade on the internet.
Right.
You're going to send me the manual first, or I'm going to send you these cards. No, it's not. These types of trades are not going to happen on the internet. And at least in my opinion, they're not.
You've had a couple months now to reflect on that. As you think back over these last couple months about the process that went into this and anything that may have transpired since, is there anything that you do differently?
I don't think so. I honestly don't think so because, like I said, since I was flying, I was limited to what I could actually bring.
Yep.
If I had more capacity, I might have brought other slabs as well. But I knew, you know, I was doing a couple different things. I was submitting some stuff at the show too, which I would have to bring home.
Yep.
But would I do anything different? No, I don't think so. It was just a matter of right place, right time, uh, right example of the card. Now, if he didn't have this particular copy and he only had the 4, which I wasn't going to be able to trade for because it's a PSA 4, and he had the SGC 1, I probably would have done it for the SGC 1. I mean, that was the assigned value on that was probably as weird as this to say this out loud, but probably 35% cheaper.
Yeah.
I mean,
Than the one that you got for the
you know
PSA
what?
one?
Yeah. I mean, he had it priced more like a 1.5 or a 2. He's not concerned. He obviously a 1 is a 1. There's no, but when you look at enough of these over time, not all ones, especially if anyone's in the vintage market, they know that not all ones are created equally. So it was just honestly it was just a whirlwind. It was an idea the week before that came into fruition the week of, and really in my mind's like, all right, this can actually happen. This is something that's feasible. It's not pie in the sky, crazy to think that this could happen. It could actually happen. And then talking with friends at Tuesday night turned into, you should contact this dealer could do this because he's a businessman. He doesn't care. He's not attached to these. And
Yep.
then my other friend said, yeah, look, you know what? I'll just text him now and see if we can if we can meet something, set up something. And then it happened, and I'm like, oh man, this is Cloud9. This is legit Cloud9 stuff that I'm walking around like, if I don't buy anything else, if nothing else happens, and this is Wednesday afternoon, if
Yeah.
nothing else happens the rest of the week, I'm good. So that type
Yeah.
of thing,
It's
and a lot of the, a lot of the fun part of it is that the I don't know if the word's affirmation, but like like yourself and all my other friends that, oh man, this looks awesome. This
yep.
copy looks awesome. So all of my friends that, I spent the rest of the week, hey, and, and that's another thing that's funny. And this might occur to you. again, 10:30, 11 o'clock. Let's just say 11 o'clock Wednesday morning, it was done. And then I started seeing people like noon, 1 o'clock, and they're coming up to me and they're like, I heard about it. Like, what are you talking about? Let me see the memo. So, what are you talking?
Yeah.
Oh, like it just started to, the news started to go around like, oh man, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine, he had, oh man, do I have it here? Yeah. He had a bunch, he had some of his cards in these fancy, bougie,
Yep.
slab
Yep.
cases. And I'm like, where'd you buy? I'm gonna need to get one of these now because I'm gonna be passing this around, and if somebody
Yeah.
drops it, yada yada yada.
Yep. Yep.
He told me, he's like, oh yeah, I'll just give you one. So you sure? He's
Yep.
like, yeah, I'll just give you one. So that was what it was in when you saw it. It was so I would just have it. Like there was a point where I just kept it like in a pants pocket because I knew I was like, all right, got to go to the bag type of thing. No, just here. It's like I got to see it. And everyone who wanted to see it, it was just, and they were happy. It was a genuine community happy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It was, they had, especially the friends that have known me a long time had, hey, I remember, in 2012 when you bought that Jim Brown rookie,
Yeah.
and,
We're happy for you for sure.
right.
Right.
That's
You
what I
know,
meant.
one of the other questions that I had for you, but this is probably the last one that we'll cover today. But I'm interested on what your mindset was from this perspective. So right behind me, right there, that basketball, that's a Michael Jordan autograph basketball, and I was able to pick that up in a trade with a shop in our area by trading a Giannis Prism rookie that
Nice.
I got for probably a quarter bulk buy in the mid teens, a year or two in, right? It was probably a
Yep.
$2 card at the time, and it was
Mm-hmm.
in a big monster box that I got, and it graded an SGC 10. And I was also able to throw in some, got that at the time when sealed wax was going crazy, and I had some wax that I was able to get at close to cost and was able to throw that in. Anyway, I was able to combine a variety of things together and trade for that Jordan autograph basketball with material that I had paid significantly less for. Right? My cost in all of that material that I used as trade fodder was a fraction of the value of what I was able to get for it in trade. And with you kind of talking about how some of these things that you worked into the trade, you had picked up a decade ago or more, right?
Mm-hmm.
At much lower cost. Did the fact that I guess, was there any satisfaction that you felt from knowing that part of what you're acquiring, this grail for you, this mantle, came from not having to have near that much value into it? You were trading something, but your cost of those things that you were trading wasn't the same as what you were getting out of it at
Right.
that. Did that come into play at all, or did that add
For
anything to the
sure.
enjoyment of the experience for you?
For sure. Yes. 100% it did. I mean, it was, and I had, after the trade, I did the math. Like I knew what I had into the cards and I knew what I was
Yep.
getting out, and it was significant difference. You
Yeah.
know, yeah, I
There's
won't say
something
how
about
much.
that adds to my enjoyment of those items that those
Well,
significant
yeah,
pieces for me when I know that I was able to um, use some strategy or approach or whatever that ultimately means my cost of that thing that I'm going to be holding on to for a long time is way less than what the full
oh,
retail
for sure.
would.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a fruit of, not fruit of your labor type of thing. Like just from collecting.
Yeah.
Like I didn't buy a Jim Brown rookie thinking, oh, you know what? In 11 years, I'm going to trade this for, you know, 10, 8, 9 times what I paid for it towards Mantle. You didn't, you don't. At least my belief is you don't go into collecting like that. You go into collecting because you enjoy it. You
Yep.
want to own it. You want to, if real life gets in the way and you have to sell it, that's what it's for.
Yep.
Real life bills come before cardboard, obviously. Real life trumps cardboard, obviously. But in the meantime, if it's something you can afford and it brings you joy, um, you got to go for it. And real quickly with Ben, like I mentioned in the beginning, the last week, and it pains me to say this like this, but the last week of his life, on a Monday, he picked up a BGS 8 Tiffany 85 Topps Tiffany Clemens. For the first time in his life, on a Monday, he bought it on eBay. He bought it. He had been collecting Clemens since 1989. Had never owned this card. He was so happy to get this card. He got it in the mail. He showed it off like Wednesday. He tweeted it Wednesday. I replied tweet, I have a PSA 9 that I bought ages ago. Hey, we both had the same card. He's like, yeah, but I needed the BGS, blah, blah, blah. We would each joke each other with that. And then he passed away on Saturday of that week. So you don't know. You don't know when it's going to, everyone's time. You don't know. But this card, owning this card, and Ben was a guy who had a Mantle rookie. He had a Gehrig. He had the, you know, the whole run of Hall of Fame rookies that you would want. He had them all.
Yeah.
But he got this Clemens in the mail, and he was over the moon.
Yep.
So it was not even anywhere near the upper the stratosphere of his collection, but it brought him so much joy to finally have this. After 34 years.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things like again, I get it. The cards you and I spoke about, some of them are quite pricey. No
Yep.
denying that. But they weren't 10, 11, 12 years ago.
Right.
We don't know today what's going to be quote unquote costly 10, 11 years from now. You don't know. And that's part of, like
Right.
you said, with the Jordan basketball that you got. You don't know. I'm sure you didn't acquire the monster boxes of Prism and the wax thinking someday, you know what, I'm going to trade this for a Jordan autographed basketball someday. No, it
Right.
just happened to happen.
Yep. Very cool. Hey, I really appreciate you spending a few minutes telling the story. I think it's a great example of some of the types of things that are possible for collectors out there. There's so many times
Yeah.
a card like that, people just assume that it is out of their reach and it always be out of their reach and that there's nothing that they can do to acquire it. But I think this is a great example that, patience can pay off. Thinking a little bit creativity or with some creativity and thinking outside the box a little bit can pay off. And I think it's a great story for people to hear. So I appreciate you coming and telling that story today.
Yeah, my pleasure, Mike. Thank you so much for having me on. Let's do another one again soon.
This is good. Before we go, just let people know where they can find you on Twitter if they want to kind of
Sure.
follow along with what you've got and the other places that you share content.
Sure. I do have a small YouTube channel. It's those back pages. I pretty much use this handle everywhere. I think by definition on Twitter, my handle is the Walking Dead Saga, but it's at those back pages. So
Yeah.
if you Google those back pages, pretty much everywhere, I think that's where. I don't think anyone else is using it. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And again, if you have on Twitter or my YouTube channel, leave a comment or whatever. If you have, if you want to get into doing something like this, or it's something, general questions, I'm always glad to help however I can.
Very cool. Thanks, Eric. And we'll talk again soon.